Welcome to another episode of the Conley Show. I lost count of how many episodes I've been doing. I think this is episode 14. And today I have Paul with me. Paul, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Austin. Thanks for inviting me on board.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate people taking time out of their day to come on the Conley Show. I was looking at your profile when I messaged you, and it looks like, well, first, let me start with today. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. And Paul here, you've been an entrepreneur since you were a young kid, right? About the age of 14, you started investing in stocks.
Correct. That's right.
What kind of stocks did you first invest in, and who got you into it?
It's a good question, and I'm not actually really too sure. I think myself, to be honest, there was no one in my life really at that time that was into it. It was just something that I guess I started reading about, got interested in, and then wanted to invest in. So yeah, at the time I had to get special permission to do it because, being 14, I wasn't of legal age, so I had to get my approval from my parents, and I had to find a stockbroker or a share broker that would deal with someone of my age. So I got through that all right, and then it's just various different shares at the time, or stocks as Americans like to refer to them. No particular area of interest. It was just really reading the market and looking for where I thought there was a good opportunity.
Where did you grow up at, or where did you grow up?
Yeah, okay, well, so I was born and bred here in New Zealand, so we're down the bottom of the world next to Australia.
Yeah.
So I was born in the South Island. We're pretty basic over here. We call our islands the South Island and North Island. We do have another name for them, but that's what they're commonly referred to as. So I was born in the South Island, and I spent most of my life in the South Island, although I now live in the North Island, in the biggest city here in New Zealand called Auckland.
And how big is New Zealand? It can't be much bigger than in a state here in the United States. What's the population?
Okay, so the population is about 5 million, and the geographic area is bigger than Great Britain. Not by a lot, but a little bit bigger than Great Britain. So to give you some sort of reference. So we're kind of, I guess, probably by American standards, a fairly small state.
Yeah. 5 million, I wasn't expecting. 5 million is a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but that's still a small population considering like New York City is, I don't know, something like 8 million people.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
I've never been in an airplane, so needless to say, never been to New Zealand or the United Kingdom. You've been to the States before?
I have. I've been to the States lots of times, and I've actually got a sister who lives in Florida. So I love traveling to America. So I've driven across a lot of America, actually. There's not too many states I haven't been to.
Recently, I grew up and was born in New York, Rochester, New York, so it's upstate. But I just moved a couple states away to my father's house in Indianapolis. So I'm kind of getting the difference in between states, like learning the differences. And it's the farthest I've been. But what I was getting at is you've had some business ventures in your life that have taken you a number of places, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I want to ask you about what's some crazy stories or what's some crazy places that you've gone because of business? Like when you say Europe, where's all over Europe?
Yeah, so for me, I'm primarily in the UK, to be honest. In terms of business, I've done a bit of traveling in Europe. I haven't done business in Europe as such. The business that I've done has been in the UK. Now, just for those that may or may not know, people from New Zealand historically came from the UK. That's where most people originated from. Much like Australia, the difference between Australia and New Zealand is Australia was initially colonized by convicts. Yeah, so it's a penal colony, whereas we weren't. We were actually law-abiding citizens that came to New Zealand from the UK. So that's for us is an important difference. So when people assume that we are Australians, that can cause a little bit of offence for some people because we feel that maybe we've got a better heritage than them.
Yeah.
So,
what's the official language in New Zealand? Is it English or?
Yes. So English is the official language, and natives to New Zealand are, or Indigenous people in New Zealand are Maori. So they speak Maori, or Te Reo is the other name for it. That's But English is very much the number one language. People that speak Maori will speak English as their number one language. We're trying to really encourage people to start speaking Maori more here in New Zealand, just to make sure that we maintain it and we don't lose it. But it's very much as English.
Yeah. I've noticed that I've talked to a number of people from Africa, from Europe, and I was just surprised how everybody knows English, but they also know, like, one guy, Africans, I think is how you say it. He spoke
Afrikaans.
Afrikaans, yeah. He spoke that and English, but it's like, I don't know a second language, and it seems like a lot of people around the world know more than one language. So
yeah, and I think that's particularly the case in Europe, not so much like where we are, because there's kind of not really a great need to learn multiple languages, but certainly in Europe there is, because the borders are so open. So it's very easy to transfer or to move between countries. So there's a lot more need to learn multiple languages, particularly in Europe.
Yeah. And out of all the places you've been, if you had to pick somewhere else to live besides New Zealand, where would that be?
That's a hard question. There's so many cool places in the world to live, and including in America. You know, there's some nice places in America. I mean, America's, some of the scenery is beautiful. So America's got some really nice places. Europe, I mean, and the other thing is, like, living somewhere and visiting somewhere is quite different. So it can be really cool to visit somewhere, but whether you want to live there. But, you know, places like in Italy, I really like spending time in Italy. South of France is really nice as well. I like warm weather, so I guess I gravitate to those kind of places. So yeah, but in in America, I mean, you've got like the New England area, which has got some cool sort of more historical type buildings. The weather's not so great in winter. And then you've got going down to the southern states, and, you know, places like San Antonio in Texas. I mean, when I visited there at the time, I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, you got Florida and California. So yeah, you got some nice places there as well.
All places I have not been, but, you know, it's someday. It's on the bucket list. You know, I should have asked, what's the best country to do business in? I don't really know business laws too much. But as far as, like, I don't know if you want to consider tax breaks or whatever it might be, what's the easiest place to start a business in where government's not having their hand out every time you make a little bit of money?
Well, it's interesting you ask that question, because there's actually been some studies done on, and there are ongoing studies that are done. And funnily enough, New Zealand has ranked typically right up there, if not one of the best, certainly one of the best for that reason, in terms of lack of barriers to starting a business.
Yeah.
So New Zealand's very much up there in terms of that, interestingly enough, whereas Australia is it's more regulated, it's more complicated too, because Australia's followed much more like the American model, where you've got states and then you've got your federal government. So you've got two layers of government, whereas in New Zealand, we've only got the one layer of government. We don't have states and then your federal government. So from that point of view, it makes it a lot easier. We've got the one tax system throughout the country, whereas Australia and America, you've got multiple tax systems operating. So yeah, New Zealand is definitely a pretty easy place to set up a business.
Yeah. One of the reasons I moved to Indianapolis is, one, it's a bigger city, but two, I wanted to upstart my own business. I wanted to start estate sales, have my own estate sales company. Instead of franchising and spending $50,000, I figured I could upstart my own. So I had to learn what's required, the business license as far as the state goes. But I was looking at your website, MS Marketing. What type of marketing do you do? Like, how does that go?
So I've actually got another website that's under construction at the moment, which is dedicated to my podcast and what I'm doing. But with the Making Sense of Marketing website, the idea with that is just, you know, marketing is becoming increasingly complicated, and the average business person really doesn't have the time, maybe the inclination and the resource to really go out there and master it on their own. And the internet's great, but the problem with the internet is so much content coming in so many different directions, and often it can be contradictory in its nature. So unless you've got the time, you know, you go out there and you're searching online, and on one article you might read, it tells you to do something, and another article is telling you something very different. So what I wanted to do there is just provide a lot of free resource for people where they can go to and hopefully trust it and rely upon it and educate themselves without having, that whole factor of getting confused by randomly going to, different sources throughout the internet. So in terms of the marketing, it's targeted really at small business marketing. So it's things that are relevant to small businesses, businesses that have limited budgets. So we talk about things like email marketing. Email marketing is a really important way to market, and it's really undervalued. It's kind of making a bit of a renaissance, but certainly for a period of time, it was kind of deemed as something from the past, but it's not at all. And it's something that every small business should do. And the thing about it is it need not cost you anything, or it'll certainly not cost you a lot. So email marketing is part of it. And then we've got things like your Google advertising, your Facebook advertising, and providing tips on websites, things to look out with when building your website. So hopefully just all good, useful information for people that are, running small businesses that are kind of looking for a bit of help and somewhere to go that they can trust the content.
Now, so the reason I ask is because starting my business, I realized I have two types of customers. I call them clients and customers. Now, somebody who, they're moving, they're downsizing, or even a loved one passed away, they have all these belongings they want to sell. That's where I would come in. So, but also I would want to advertise to customers who are looking to shop at an estate sale, not necessarily host an estate sale. Right. So, I was thinking to myself, email marketing, Facebook, what would be the best way to market to clients and then market to customers? Because I'm going to start in the Indianapolis area, but that's one of the things I wanted to ask you today. Well, in your opinion, what's the most efficient way to market a business like this?
Okay, well, I think before answering that, one thing I'd always recommend for everyone to do is to consider their target market and what their ideal client looks like. And the reason to do that is if you can really define your target market and those individuals within that and really dive deep and understand them, then it puts you in a strong position to then start targeting them. But where a lot of people go wrong is they don't actually give it a lot of thought to who is their target audience, what do they look like, what will they, how do they behave and what will they react to? And if you don't spend that time in the first instance, then potentially you might go out and spend a lot of money on advertising, but you're not targeting it right. You're not going to where your target market actually will be found. So before doing any advertising, I'd really strongly recommend that you take some time, and in your case, you're talking about two different audiences, and really think about what they look like, how they behave, so that in doing so, you can then start to formulate your plan with your marketing. But the other thing I would say to you too is, like, you mentioned about, say, Facebook advertising. Whatever advertising that you're doing, you want to ultimately be getting data and specifically getting their contact details, because that's the power. The power is in your database. So you can go out, depending, you might be able to go out and purchase a database, but certainly in terms of your marketing, one of your goals should be to actually get data, to get their contact details. Because once you've got it, then you can start emailing them, and that's where that can really turn into a powerful part of your whole strategy. So don't waste the opportunity with your social media advertising. You've got to give them some reason to click and to go forward to a landing page and get them to share with you their contact details. And once you've got that, then you can start to really market to them.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your belief? And I've done a little bit of browsing, and you're right. There's a lot of stuff out there on marketing, a lot of crap I don't understand or crap I don't need. And that's what I liked about your site. It was simple, it was informative, and the colors just meshed well. Because I've seen websites out there where it just like throws a lot in your face at once, and it's a lot. So I guess what I was saying was, what type of details are useful? Name, email. I mean, what else do you collect? Phone numbers, that type of thing.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff's good. I mean, obviously, if you really want to amp it up, you want to get to know them a bit more intimately. And by doing that, you can really form a strong relationship going forward. And it depends on the nature of your business, your ability to get that information. But things like, their birthdays, wedding anniversaries, stuff like that. Again, it depends on the nature of your business, but that can be really, really good stuff to have. And your ability to serve them without necessarily expecting anything is important too. If people see that the only contact they ever get from you is when you want something from them, it tends to turn people off. But if you kind of go that extra mile and learn more about them and maybe do things where there's not necessarily anything you're going to gain from that actual event in itself, then you tend to build a relationship and build your credibility, and then in doing so, you potentially got a longer term relationship with them.
Yeah, that's good advice. How important is it in today's world to have a professional designed website? I mean, so much business is done online, and it's hard to think of any business that doesn't have a website. But so what type of resources should someone starting out their own business have in their website? I don't really know how much it costs to start a website. It really depends if you design it yourself. A typical domain could be, I don't know, $15, and then you purchase it for a couple of years. I use something called Wix.com. I don't know if you are familiar with that. Then
I'm familiar with it.
So that's how I've been designing my website, but I haven't purchased the domain yet. But how important is it to have all my business information on that website, or how interactive should it be with customers?
Sure. Yeah, look, your website is incredibly important. It's the window into your business. And with people going more and more online, they're going to judge you based on what they see online. So for instance, if your website's not kept up to date, then people might interpret it that maybe you're just kind of not really totally on top of things, So your website is really, really important, and people's attention spans are only getting shorter because we've got so much content out there, so much to look at. So people are going to land on your website and they're very quickly going to judge you rightly or wrongly. And if they don't judge you, in a positive way, then they're potentially going to move on. So you've got to really grab their attention very quickly and get them to stay on long enough that they can read your content. And then hopefully you're going to get them to take some sort of an action. So you can't underestimate the importance of the website. You can't also underestimate the role of the website. A common problem that I see is with people not understanding the role of ads as compared to the website. So when you have an ad, the job of the ad is not to sell. The ad itself doesn't sell. The job of the ad is to evoke an action. Now that action might be, if they see your ad, is to give you a call. It could be to go to your website, or it could be to come and visit you if you've got a store. Now, it depends on the nature of what you're selling as to what's the most likely way in which people behave. And again, you've got to come back to understanding your target market and how they would behave. But to give you a simple example, right, is if you put an ad out for emergency plumbing, if someone has a burst pipe, they quickly go online, they see an ad, your ad for an emergency plumber, they're probably not going to go to your website. They're going to ring you straight away because it's an emergency. If, for instance, though, however, you were, say, building houses or renovating houses, are people, when they see your ad, are they likely just to ring you straight away, or are they going to go to your website and do some research?
They're probably going to go to the website.
Exactly, because the reality there is this is a big purchase. We're talking a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, and because we know that so much is online, people will go to the website and check out, your photos and all your information and either think, yeah, okay, I might be able to work with them, or maybe not. And even if they think, yeah, this looks quite good, chances are they're still going to carry on and go and look at other websites too.
Right.
So the job of the website is to capture people's attention and then get them to take another action. So the job of the ad has been fulfilled if they get you to ring, visit the website, or go to the store. It's then up to the website to sell. If the website has a merchant facility, it's up to the person that takes the phone call to sell. if they phone, or if they visit the store, it's up to the person in the store to sell. But the ad has done its job so long as it gets people to do one of those things.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the website, if it's got a merchant facility, then the job of that website is to convince people to buy. If it doesn't have a merchant facility, then the job of that website is to get people to take another action, which would be either to call or to visit the store. So the website is far from being passive. It's actually got a very active role to play in the whole process of converting an inquiry into a sale. So one of the big things with websites is having a call to action. And that means having something on your website to motivate people to take action. And so often you'll see websites where they don't have them, and if they do have them, maybe they're not compelling enough. They don't resonate enough with the target audience to get them to do something. Now, that's easier said than done, to be fair. You've got to really think, and you might need to try a few different things, but you've got to really think about what would it take for them to call me or visit me? What can I put out there that's going to make them feel motivated to do it, and preferably to do it now, not to go off to 5 other websites and then forget to ever come back. So people do things like they might have, give us your contact details and we're going to send you a free 30-page pamphlet on how to do something. Or it might be, if you call now and quote this code, we're going to give you a 15% discount off the price, or something like that. But you've got to come up with something that is going to resonate with your target audience to get them to take action. And that's super important, and it's often missed on websites. So yeah, to answer your question, website's really important. You need to spend time on it. You need to have a clear strategy before you build it as to what you're trying to achieve. It needs to include a call to action. And you really need to have, as I've said, really considered your target market and designed it around appealing to your target market to make them take action.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, no, it is. It is very important. That's some good advice. I appreciate it. And one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to have everything done, the website, all the supplies needed before I officially launch. Because kind of like you touched base on it, if it's incomplete, people are going to say, well, maybe he doesn't have everything together, but it just looks bad. So the plan is to launch in the spring of 2022. But another thing is when should I launch? Because I don't have clients yet. I just that's things that you don't necessarily have to have the answer. Those are just things that are making me think, like, do I launch spring? Do I launch summer? What if I don't have everything together? But another thing is I wanted to ask you is, you said you've been through multiple business ventures, correct?
Yeah, correct.
How important is failure to success?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And in my opinion, when you fail or when you have challenges, you learn much, much more than when everything's going well. If everything goes smoothly, then you don't learn anything, and you can often get a false sense of security. And it can also be indicative that you're not really pushing yourself very far with what you're doing if everything goes very smoothly. So having challenges is part of the journey, that if you're really going to achieve in your lifetime, then you have to expect challenges and embrace them as an important part of that learning process, and that it'll be when you'll learn the most. Now, I mean, no one should go out seeking to fail.
Right.
But if you do fail, then the key is to learn from it, to really step back and understand why you did fail and make sure that you learn from it. It's perfectly okay to fail so long as you learn from it. Where it's not okay is if you fail and you don't learn and then you repeat it. That's not good.
Yeah, repeating the same mistakes, that's a big one.
Absolutely, absolutely. So long as you are open and willing to learn from your mistakes, then you'll benefit greatly from it. So you've got to have an open mind. But if you take the view that you want to blame everyone but yourself for your failures, then you're not probably going to learn a lot and you're not going to grow a lot. Growth will come from, being realistic and accepting your failures, but learning from them.
Right. And like you said, you said it perfectly well. No one should go out seeking to failure, but it's almost like you're anticipating some failures, and that's the only way to learn. Well said. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up in a few minutes. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about as far as share your business ventures? How many businesses are you working on right now? I know you said you got something under construction.
Yeah.
Are you somebody who considers himself like a serial entrepreneur?
Yeah, I guess something somewhere along those lines, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, I'm one of these people that I like learning. I like doing new things. That really stimulates me. Doing the same thing for the next 20 years for me would be really boring. It's just kind of not who I am. So I like to do new things. So yeah, so I guess you say I am. In terms of what I'm doing with the Making Sense of Marketing website, that's still got a long way to go. That's still in its sort of infantile stage, really. So I'm really developing that. And with that, I've got an email marketing course that I've created, but I haven't started promoting it yet, to teach small business owners about how to do their own email marketing. So it's all video based. It's all online. People can learn at their own pace, because I think that email marketing is incredibly important part of what small business owners should be doing. So I wanted to create a training program that people could do in their own time. It's been specifically designed to take into account that a lot of small business owners are shorter time. So each video is very short. Most of them are no more than about 5 minutes long. So they're in very small modules. And, that just allows a business person to do a quick 1 or 2 modules and then go carry on with their work. Having said that, though, it's important that they keep doing it consistently, though, because otherwise, if they only do it sort of in a very sort of ad hoc way, then they may forget what they've learned. So it is important consistency, but in bite sizes. So I've done that. I'm also going to be creating some other online educational courses relating to marketing for small businesses. And then I've got my podcast, which is called Insights into Success, which I've been doing for a little while now, and I'm about to launch a website, and I've got a whole bunch of things that are going to come off that as well. And Insights into Success is about looking at people in their journey to success, talking to people that are successful, talking to people that are on their journey to success. It need not be financial. It can also be other things. It can be sports people. It can be musicians. It really doesn't matter. There's a lot of commonality in what's required to succeed, say, in sports as there is in business. So I think regardless of your interest, I think there's a lot that we can learn by listening to other people and their journeys and their challenges on their way to achieving their success.
I agree.
And success is their own personal definition too, I might add. It's not like it's a specific thing. For each person, it's up to you what you define as your success. So in the process of that, we've done probably, I think, about a bit over 30 interviews so far. We've, as I say, got a website that's due to be finished shortly. I'm going to be creating some specific stuff targeting those that are wanting to start up businesses, those that have issues maybe with getting seed capital and venture capital. We're kind of going to address all those issues and develop some training programs to help people so that those with business ideas can come and do a program to help upskill themselves to enhance their chances of success.
Yeah.
But that aside, it's just a great opportunity to listen to people that I interview from around the world about their challenges and their successes, their failures, what they've learned, and what they think are the keys to success.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. You got a lot going on.
And keeps me busy.
For the podcast, I have to ask, because I'm only 14 episodes and I haven't invested too much in equipment. What type of mics or what type of sound equipment do you use? Do you have a mixer?
To answer that question, I'm going to say, firstly, I'll show you. I've got a Blue Yeti. Look, in terms of all that, obviously there's a lot of people go out there and get really top end stuff. Now, this is where I kind of diverge. Like you were saying before about business and making sure that you have everything in position before you kick off.
Yeah.
And in some cases, totally agree with that. I think that that's right. Sometimes you just need to be totally set up, because if you don't, and then you go out there and people have a bad experience, then that could be the undermining of your business. And to that end, I just drop in a little suggestion to you, and that is you could consider a soft launch for what you're doing. So don't go out to the masses, but if you can find a small group that you can work with and maybe provide your service a couple of times, test it out, see how that works, see if there's any issues before you really go full blown with your launch.
That's a good idea.
But getting back to this, look, I think with things like podcasts, videos, that sort of thing, look, the key is the content. I believe content rules everything. If you wait to make everything perfect in the regard of, say, doing your podcast or doing your videos, then you may never do it. It may never happen, but people will be forgiving of you with this sort of content if it's good. So my message there is, I don't believe you need to have the best technology. I don't think you need to spend thousands of dollars on, your sound equipment and have a, soundproof room and stuff like that. That's all nice to have stuff, and sure, get there, but don't let that hold you back. And part of my culture where I am here in New Zealand, that's kind of what we're renowned for too, is kind of just like getting on with things and doing it, and making do. But very much like, I've looked at this quite a lot, and the consensus out there is definitely just to get on with things. And like, say with your videos, right, you might do the same take 4 times, and it's okay. It's maybe 80%, but it's not quite 100. And the question is, should you keep going and spend another 10 takes to get that extra 20%? And the answer is no. In my opinion, the answer is no. That will come with time. You might get to 90%, but so long as you believe in the content and your feedback on your content is good, just get on with it. Just get on with it and do it. Don't let it hold you back. Honestly, there's lots of examples online of people that have gone on and have done incredibly well, and their video footage is pretty average. The sound quality may not be the best. So just get on with it would be my suggestion to you. Don't get hung up about having the best stuff.
Right.
I don't have the best stuff, and I'm quite happy that I don't right now. I don't really need that. I don't think at this point in time.
Yeah, that's important. You've got to evaluate what you need. And I like that suggestion. Thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Paul from New Zealand, thank you so much for doing this. And to those listening, stay curious. Thank you, Paul.
Cheers. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be on board. Appreciate it.
It was.